Welcome to Capital Sport. This morning we are here at the Kenyatta University playing grounds, and with us here is Linda Gellard from the Australian High Commission, and we are talking matters football this morning ahead of the FIFA Women's World Cup, which will be co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand beginning the 20th of July this month. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a very exciting morning here to be farewelling Mary, so thanks for having us.
Australia and New Zealand are co-hosting the World Cup in around 2 weeks' time. How does it feel for Australia to host a tournament of this magnitude?
We are so excited. This is a number of firsts for Australia. So it's the first time that the FIFA Women's World Cup will be held in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's wonderful. It's going to be the biggest women's tournament in the world. Australia has a long history of hosting different sporting events. You'll probably remember the Sydney 2000 Olympics. And we are just delighted to have something as big as the FIFA Women's World Cup on Australian shores.
For those coming to Australia and New Zealand to play, to watch the games and maybe to officiate or to participate in any whatever kind of capacity, what should they expect?
They should expect a really warm welcome. So Australia and New Zealand have been preparing for this for some time. We are excited. We cannot wait to host the world, and particularly for those Africans and the East Africans coming to Australia, we just can't wait to show you our country. So we're just so delighted to have Mary representing Kenya and to come to Australia representing East Africa for FIFA.
And over the years, the number of female referees in the game has increased, and particularly in Australia, the number of women referees are increasing. Of what significance is it to have an increased number of female referees in the game?
Of course, Kevin, the fact that there's been an increased number of referees that are female is no surprise to anyone. We belong on the field just as much as men do, and I think that's why it's so great that Mary's representing Kenya at this FIFA Women's World Cup. And the great leveller, the great thing about sport is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, whether you're a man or a woman or how you identify, everybody's welcome on the field. So I just see it as natural that this is Mary's chosen place. She says that this is her chosen career, and we're just delighted that she's going to be taking that forward in Australia.
Australia has really grown, women's football has really grown in Australia over the years, and this year you're hosting the World Cup. As an Australian, what are you expecting from the Matildas?
Oh, we're expecting great things. All of Australia is really behind the Matildas. I have 2 children as well. I have a boy and a girl, and I think it's so great that they can follow men's teams as much as they can follow women's teams. And I know both of my children all the way over here in Kenya will really be cheering them on. We're very proud of the Matildas.
We've seen the sport, the women's football starting out in Australia. There was very few people who used to attend the matches compared to nowadays. There are capacity crowds attending the matches. Maybe we've had the same problem here in Kenya, where women's football has not had the attention that compared to the men's football. What do you think are some of the lessons that we can learn from the growth of women's football in Australia?
I think you just need to listen to your own wonderful referee that's about to represent Kenya, because Mary was talking about how this was a dream come true for her and how she's been really an inspiration for little girls all over Kenya and in fact all over East Africa. I think that we can learn what sport brings to people, that it's about having a go, which is really what Australia is about. It's really an Australian value. You don't have to be the best, you don't have to be on a World Cup team, you just have to get on the field and participate and wake up every day and give it your best. And I think that's what Australians are good at, and that's what we're hoping to show the world.
Maybe a word of advice to Mary as she goes to Australia. What would you tell her to look out for when she's in Australia, just apart from officiating at the World Cup?
Mary is an extraordinary professional and she needs no advice for me. The only thing I would say is just enjoy it. Australia's really delighted to host you. We've got a lot of close connections with East Africa in Australia. And in fact, the Young Australian of the Year, this year in Australia, was from Kenya. So he grew up here in Kenya. His name is Awa Mabil, and he also funded a humanitarian organisation here in Kenya called Barefoot to Boots. And that's all about helping refugees in Kenya to play soccer and be involved in sport. So she will get a very warm welcome in Australia because we warmly welcome the East Africans that form a critical part of our men's soccer team. So I think she'll be at home.
And looking at the pools, the different pools, which do you think is going to be the toughest opponent for the Matildas?
Look, I think I'm a diplomat. I wouldn't want to say, but I'm sure that the Africans will give us a run for our money, and I might have to cheer for two teams at one time, depending on how it goes. So I wouldn't want to say, but I really wish the very best of luck to everyone. But most of all, we just really want to welcome you to Australia and show East Africa what Australia has to offer.
In the long term, the significance of Australia hosting the World Cup, the Women's World Cup?
Well, of course, this isn't the end for us. We're going to be hosting the Netball World Cup in a couple of years and the Women's Rugby as well. So this is just the start. We're going to be hosting the Brisbane Olympics. So we see this as a real journey for Australia. This isn't a one-off. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing more and more of referees participating in the Women's World Cup and also just the women's football growing overall. Thank you so much. So do we, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.